Emma was 8 years old. She had long brown hair and big green eyes. She lived with her mom and dad in a small white house at the end of Pine Road. The house had a red door and a big yard with lots of trees. Emma liked to play outside in the yard. She would collect rocks, climb trees, and make up games. Emma was a happy child, but she had a problem. She had asthma. This meant that sometimes it was hard for her to breathe. When this happened, her chest would feel tight, and she would start to wheeze. Emma's parents always kept her inhaler close by. The inhaler was a small device that helped Emma breathe when she had an asthma attack. "Remember to always have your inhaler, Emma," her mom would say every morning. Emma would nod and put the inhaler in her pocket or her small backpack. One day, Emma's dad came home with a surprise. He held a small box with holes in it. The box was moving a little bit and making soft sounds. "What is it, Dad?" Emma asked, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's a special gift for you," her dad said with a smile. "Go ahead, open it." Emma opened the box carefully. Inside was a small puppy. The puppy had soft, fluffy fur that was golden brown. It had one blue eye and one brown eye, which made it look extra special. The puppy looked up at Emma and made a small bark. Its tail wagged fast, showing it was happy. "Is it really for me?" Emma asked, not believing her eyes. "Yes, sweetie," her mom said. "We thought you might like a friend. And this is a special dog. It's a breed called a border collie. They are very smart and loyal." Emma picked up the puppy gently. It licked her face, making her laugh. The puppy's tongue was warm and tickled her cheek. "What will you name him?" her dad asked. Emma thought for a moment. She looked at the puppy's odd eyes, one blue like the sky and one brown like chocolate. "I'll call him Max," she said. "He looks like a Max to me." From that day on, Emma and Max became best friends. Every morning, Max would wake Emma up by jumping on her bed and licking her face. They would eat breakfast together, with Max sitting by Emma's chair, hoping for a small piece of toast. After breakfast, Emma would go to school. Max would watch her from the window as she walked down the road to the bus stop. He would wait there until he couldn't see her anymore. When Emma came home from school, Max would run to the door, his whole body wiggling with joy. In the afternoons, Emma and Max would play in the yard. Emma would throw a red ball, and Max would run to get it. He always brought it back to her, dropping it at her feet, ready to run again. Sometimes they would just sit under the big oak tree. Emma would read a book while Max slept beside her. At night, Max slept on a small bed next to Emma's. But by morning, he was always up on her bed, curled up at her feet. Emma's parents didn't mind. They could see how much Emma loved Max and how much Max loved Emma. As the weeks went by, Max grew bigger. His legs got longer and his body got stronger, but his eyes stayed the same. One blue, one brown, looking at Emma with love and care. What no one knew yet was that Max was not just a regular dog. There was something special about him, something that would one day save Emma's life when she needed help the most. The first sign came on a rainy Tuesday. Emma was playing in her room when she started to feel her chest get tight. Before she could call for her mom or reach for her inhaler, Max started to bark. It wasn't his normal playful bark. It was louder and more urgent. He ran to the door and back to Emma, barking the whole time. Emma's mom heard the strange barking and came to check. She found Emma starting to wheeze and quickly got her inhaler. After Emma took her medicine and could breathe easier again, her mom looked at Max with new eyes. How did he know? She wondered. How did Max know Emma was going to have an asthma attack? After that rainy Tuesday, Emma's parents watched Max closely. They noticed how he acted when Emma's breathing changed. Even before Emma knew she was having trouble, Max would become alert. His ears would stand up. His body would get stiff. Then he would start his special bark. "I think Max can smell something in Emma's breath when her asthma starts," Dad said one night after Emma went to bed. "It's amazing. Mom replied, like he has a special power. As spring turned to summer, Max grew bigger and stronger. Emma taught him many tricks. He could sit, stay, shake hands, and roll over. But his best trick was one nobody taught him, knowing when Emma needed her medicine. Emma's doctor was surprised when he heard about Max. There are special service dogs that can detect seizures and low blood sugar, he told Emma's parents. But I've never heard of an asthma alert dog that wasn't specially trained. Max is one of a kind, Emma's dad said with pride. Summer was Emma's favorite time. School was out, and she could play with Max all day. They went on walks in the woods behind their house. Emma's mom always made sure Emma had her inhaler in her pocket. Don't go too far, Mom would say. We won't, Emma would promise. One hot day in July, Emma and Max were playing by the small stream in the woods. Emma was throwing sticks into the water, and Max was jumping in to get them. The water splashed around him as he grabbed each stick with his mouth and brought it back to Emma. Suddenly, Max stopped playing. He stood very still and looked at Emma. His ears were up, and his body was tense. What's wrong, boy? Emma asked. Max began to bark his special bark. Emma felt fine, but she knew to trust Max. She reached for her inhaler in her pocket, but it wasn't there. Emma felt her other pocket. Empty. She looked in her small backpack. The inhaler wasn't there either. She had forgotten it at home. Oh no, Emma said. Her heart started to beat faster. She wasn't having trouble breathing yet, but she knew it might start soon. We need to go home, Max, she said. They turned to walk back. The sun was very hot. The air felt thick and heavy. Emma started to walk fast, but that made her breathe harder. She felt the first tight feeling in her chest. Max stayed close to Emma's side. His eyes never left her face. Emma tried to stay calm. She knew getting scared would make her breathing worse. It's okay, she told herself. We're not far from home. But the woods seemed bigger now. The path seemed longer. Emma started to wheeze a little. She needed to slow down, but she also needed to get home quickly. Max whined softly. He could tell Emma was getting worse. He pushed his body against her legs, helping her stay steady as they walked. The trees blocked the view of their house. Emma wasn't sure which way to go. She stopped and looked around. Her breathing was getting worse. She started to feel scared. Which way, Max? She asked, her voice shaky. Max looked at her, then looked to the right. He barked once and started walking that way. Emma followed him, trusting her dog. The woods seemed to go on forever. Emma's chest felt tighter with each step. Her breathing made a whistling sound. Sweat ran down her face, not just from the heat, but from the effort to breathe. Max kept looking back to make sure Emma was following. He would wait when she needed to rest, but he also kept urging her forward, as if he knew they needed to hurry. Finally, they saw the edge of the woods. Their white house with the red door was just across the yard. Emma felt relief wash over her, but her legs felt weak. Her vision was getting blurry around the edges. Almost there, she whispered to herself. But Emma's body was giving out. Her legs wobbled, and she fell to her knees at the edge of the woods. Her breathing was very bad now. She couldn't call out for help. The house seemed so close yet so far away. Max looked at Emma, then at the house. He seemed to make a decision. What he did next would change everything. Max looked at Emma one more time. Her face was pale. Her lips were turning a light blue color. She was trying to breathe, but only small gasps came out. Max knew he had to act fast. He licked Emma's hand once, as if to say, "I'll be back." Then he turned and ran toward the house. His legs moved faster than they ever had before. His heart pounded in his chest. Max was not running for fun now. He was running to save Emma. Emma watched Max run away. She tried to call his name, but no sound came out. She felt dizzy. The world around her seemed to spin. She lay down on the grass at the edge of the woods. The ground felt cool against her hot face. Emma closed her eyes. She hoped Max was going to get help. At the house, Emma's mom was in the kitchen making lunch. She looked out the window and saw Max running across the yard. She noticed right away that something was wrong. Max was alone. Emma was not with him. "Tom." She called to Emma's dad. "Something's wrong." Emma's dad came quickly from the garage where he was fixing a shelf. They both watched as Max reached the back door. He jumped up and scratched at the door, barking loudly. Emma's mom opened the door. Max ran inside, barking and running in circles. Then he ran to the living room. Emma's inhaler was on the coffee table. Max grabbed it in his mouth and ran back to Emma's parents. "Good boy, Max," Emma's dad said, taking the inhaler. "Where's Emma?" Max barked and ran to the door. Emma's parents followed him. Max led them across the yard toward the woods. He kept looking back to make sure they were following. "Emma must be having an attack," Emma's mom said, her voice shaking with fear. She knew how bad Emma's asthma could get. They ran after Max. The dog moved quickly, but made sure they could keep up. When they reached the edge of the woods, they saw Emma lying on the ground. Her eyes were closed. Her breathing was very weak. "Emma," her mom cried, running to her daughter. Emma's dad knelt beside Emma. He put the inhaler to her lips and pressed the button. The medicine sprayed into Emma's mouth. He did it again, making sure she got enough medicine. "Come on, sweetheart," he said, his voice worried. "Breathe." Max stood close by, watching. His job wasn't done yet. He would stay with Emma until she was better. Emma's mom held Emma's hand. "Should we call an ambulance?" she asked. "Let's see if the inhaler helps first," Emma's dad said. "If she doesn't improve in a minute, we'll call." They waited. Seconds felt like hours. Max whined softly, his eyes never leaving Emma's face. Slowly, Emma's breathing got a little easier. The medicine was working. Her eyes fluttered open. "Mom, Dad?" she said in a weak voice. "We're here, honey," her mom said, tears of relief in her eyes. "Max got us. He brought your inhaler." Emma looked at Max. She reached out a shaky hand to pet him. Max moved closer so she could reach him. He licked her hand gently. "Good boy," Emma whispered. Emma's dad carefully picked Emma up. She was still weak, and her breathing wasn't completely normal yet. He carried her back to the house with Emma's mom and Max following right behind. Inside, they laid Emma on the couch. Her mom covered her with a soft blanket. Her dad called the doctor just to be safe. Max jumped up and lay down at Emma's feet, keeping watch. "That was too close," Emma's dad said quietly to her mom when they stepped into the kitchen. "If Max hadn't come to get us." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. They both knew what could have happened if Max hadn't been there, or if he hadn't been so smart. In the living room, Emma was feeling a little better. The tight feeling in her chest was going away. She patted the couch beside her, and Max moved up to lie next to her. "You saved me," she told him, her arm around his furry neck. Max's story of heroism wasn't over. In fact, it was just beginning. What happened that day changed how everyone saw Max. He wasn't just a pet anymore. He was a hero, a protector, a lifesaver. But the biggest test of his abilities was still to come. After the scary day in the woods, things changed for Emma and Max. Emma's parents bought Max a special collar. It was bright red with a tag that said "Hero Dog" on one side. On the other side, it had their phone number and address. Max wore his new collar proudly. Emma had to see her doctor. The doctor gave her a new inhaler that was stronger. He also gave her a small machine to test her breathing each morning. "You must be more careful, Emma," the doctor said. "Always take your inhaler with you." Emma nodded. She had learned her lesson the hard way. Emma's mom had an idea. She sewed a small pouch that attached to Max's collar. Emma's spare inhaler fit perfectly in the pouch. Now, wherever Max went, the inhaler went too. This way, Max will always have your medicine with him, her mom explained. Emma thought this was very clever. She practiced with Max, teaching him to stand still while she took the inhaler from his collar pouch. Max learned quickly, as if he understood how important it was. Summer turned to fall. The leaves changed to bright colors: red, orange, and yellow. The air got cooler. Emma went back to school. Max still waited by the window each morning as she left. He still ran to greet her when she came home. One day in October, Emma's teacher announced a special event. "Next week is Pet Day," she told the class. "You can bring your pet to school to show everyone. If your pet is too big or doesn't like crowds, you can bring a picture instead." Emma was excited. She raised her hand. "Can I bring my dog Max?" she asked. "He's very well behaved." "Of course," her teacher said with a smile. When Emma got home, she told her parents about Pet Day. "I want to take Max to school," she said. "I want to tell everyone how he saved me." Emma's parents agreed that it was a good idea. Max deserved to be recognized for his bravery. "We'll help you prepare what to say," her dad offered. For the next few days, Emma practiced her speech about Max. She talked about how he could sense her asthma attacks before they happened. She explained how he had run for help when she was in danger. Emma was proud of her special dog. The day before Pet Day, Emma's class went on a field trip to the local museum. The museum had a new exhibit about animals around the world. Emma enjoyed seeing the pictures and models of different animals. There were lions, tigers, elephants, and even dinosaurs. After lunch, the class went to the museum's theater to watch a short film about ocean life. The theater was dark and cool. The seats were soft and comfortable. The movie showed colorful fish swimming in the deep blue sea. As Emma watched the movie, she started to feel strange. Her chest felt tight. She reached for her inhaler in her pocket. It was there, but when she tried to use it, nothing happened. The inhaler was empty. Emma tried to stay calm. She raised her hand to tell her teacher she needed help, but the teacher was at the back of the theater and didn't see her. The movie was loud, and the room was dark. No one noticed that Emma was having trouble. Emma's breathing got worse. She felt scared. She wished Max was with her. Max would know what to do. But Max was at home, waiting for her return. 2 rows behind Emma, a parent helper saw her struggling. The woman moved quickly to Emma's side. "Are you okay?" she whispered. Emma shook her head. "Asthma," she managed to say. "Inhaler, empty." The parent helper called to the teacher. Soon, everyone was aware of the problem. The teacher had a first aid kit, but it didn't have an inhaler. Someone called 911 for an ambulance. While they waited, Emma's breathing got worse. The teacher had Emma sit up straight and try to take slow breaths. But Emma was too scared. She couldn't stop thinking about how Max wasn't there to help her this time. Miles away, at Emma's house, Max suddenly stood up from his nap. His ears perked up. Something was wrong. He could sense it. Max began to bark at the front door. He needed to get out. He needed to find Emma. But how? At Emma's house, Max was very upset. He paced back and forth by the front door. He barked and scratched at the door. Something was wrong with Emma. He could feel it. Emma's mom was working from home that day. She heard Max making noise and came to see what was wrong. "What is it, boy?" she asked. "Emma won't be home for 2 more hours." Max barked again. He ran to the table where Emma's mom kept her purse and keys. He put his paw on her purse and barked. Emma's mom was confused. Max had never acted this way before. Then she remembered how Max always knew when Emma was having an asthma attack. Her heart started beating faster. "Is Emma in trouble?" she asked. Max barked loudly. He ran back to the door and scratched at it again. Emma's mom didn't wait any longer. She grabbed her purse and keys. She opened the door, and Max ran out to the car. He jumped up against the car door, waiting for her to open it. "Okay, Max," she said. "I trust you." She opened the car door, and Max jumped in. Emma's mom got in and started the car. She wasn't sure where to go. Emma's school. But then her phone rang. The caller ID showed it was Emma's school. Emma's mom answered quickly. "Hello, Mrs. Johnson. This is Mrs. Davis, Emma's teacher," said the voice on the phone. "Emma is having an asthma attack. We're at the City Museum on our field trip. An ambulance is on the way." "I'll be right there," Emma's mom said. Her hand shook as she put down the phone. She looked at Max, who was sitting very still in the passenger seat, watching her. "You knew," she whispered. "You knew Emma was in trouble." Max whined softly. Emma's mom drove quickly but carefully to the museum. She parked the car and opened the door for Max. Together, they ran into the building. At the front desk, a museum worker tried to stop them. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but dogs aren't allowed in the museum," he said. "This is a service dog," Emma's mom said firmly. "My daughter is having an asthma attack somewhere in this building. Please, we need to find her." The worker looked at Max's special collar with the hero dog tag. "They're in the Ocean Theater," he said. "I'll take you there." Meanwhile, Emma was still having trouble breathing. The ambulance had not arrived yet. Her teacher and the other adults were trying to help her stay calm, but Emma was very scared. The theater doors opened, and Emma's mom rushed in with Max. Max saw Emma right away. He ran to her, pulling the leash from Emma's mom's hand. "Emma," her mom called, following Max. Emma looked up and saw Max running toward her. Even in her fear, a small smile came to her face. Max reached her and put his head on her lap. The special pouch on his collar was right there. Emma's mom reached them and quickly opened the pouch. Inside was Emma's spare inhaler. She gave it to Emma, who used it right away. The medicine started to work. Emma's breathing got a little easier. She took another puff from the inhaler. Everyone in the theater watched in amazement. "How did you know to come?" Emma's teacher asked Emma's mom. "Max knew," Emma's mom said, petting the dog's head. "He started barking and wouldn't stop until I got in the car. Then you called." The teacher looked at Max with wide eyes. "That's incredible." Just then, the paramedics arrived. They checked Emma over and gave her some oxygen to help her breathe better. They were impressed that Emma's mom had arrived with the inhaler so quickly. "You got here just in time," one paramedic told her. "How did you know?" Emma's mom pointed at Max. "Her dog sensed she was in trouble. He alerted me." The paramedics looked at each other in surprise. One of them bent down to pet Max. "Good job, buddy," he said. "You're a very special dog." The paramedics wanted to take Emma to the hospital to be checked by a doctor. Emma's mom agreed. As they helped Emma onto the stretcher, she held onto Max's collar. "Can Max come too?" she asked weakly. The paramedic looked at his partner, then at Emma's mom. "After what this dog just did," he said, "I think we can make an exception." And so Max rode in the ambulance with Emma, staying by her side the whole time. But even Max didn't know that his biggest challenge was still waiting in the days ahead. At the hospital, the doctors checked Emma carefully. They listened to her lungs and took some tests. Emma's mom stayed by her side the whole time. Max waited in the hall with Emma's dad, who had rushed to the hospital after getting a call from Emma's mom. "Emma will need to stay overnight," the doctor told her parents. "Her asthma is getting worse. We need to watch her and give her medicine through a mask." Emma didn't like this news. She had never stayed in a hospital before. The room was strange, with beeping machines and a bed that moved up and down when you pushed buttons. The hospital gown was scratchy and too big for her. "I want to go home," she said, her eyes filling with tears. "I know, sweetie," her mom said, holding her hand. "But the doctors need to make sure you're okay." "Where's Max?" Emma asked. She hadn't seen him since arriving at the hospital. "He's in the hall with Dad," her mom explained. "They don't usually allow dogs in patient rooms." Emma's face fell. She needed Max. He made her feel safe. The doctor saw how sad Emma looked. He thought for a moment. "This is a special case," he said finally. "If the dog is clean and well-behaved, he can visit for a little while." Emma's face lit up. Her dad brought Max into the room. Max walked slowly, sensing he needed to be on his best behavior. When he saw Emma in the hospital bed, he wagged his tail gently. "Max," Emma called softly. Max went to the side of the bed. He put his head near Emma's hand so she could pet him. Emma felt better right away. The hospital didn't seem so scary with Max there. The doctor watched with interest. "This is the dog that sensed her asthma attack from miles away?" he asked. Emma's dad nodded. "Yes, and he's done it before too. He can tell when she's going to have an attack before it happens." The doctor looked thoughtful. "I've heard of dogs that can detect seizures and low blood sugar, but sensing asthma attacks from a distance is very unusual." "Max is special," Emma said simply, stroking his soft fur. The doctor agreed to let Max stay until Emma fell asleep. Emma's parents would take turns staying with her overnight. Her dad would take Max home and come back in the morning. As evening came, nurses brought Emma some dinner on a tray. The food wasn't very good, but Emma was hungry. She ate some chicken and pudding while watching TV. Max lay quietly on the floor next to her bed. After dinner, a nurse came to give Emma medicine through a mask that covered her nose and mouth. The mask made a soft hissing sound as it released a fine mist. Emma had to breathe the mist in for 10 minutes. "This medicine will help keep your airways open," the nurse explained. Emma nodded. She was used to this kind of treatment. Max watched everything with his intelligent eyes. When it was time for bed, Emma's mom helped her brush her teeth. Then Emma snuggled under the blankets. The hospital bed wasn't as comfy as her bed at home, but she was very tired. "Time to say goodnight to Max," her dad said. "I'll bring him back tomorrow." Emma hugged Max around his neck. "Good night, Max. Thank you for saving me again." Max licked her cheek once, very gently. It was his way of saying, "You're welcome." As Emma's dad led Max to the door, Max suddenly stopped. He turned his head and looked back at Emma. He made a small whining sound. "Come on, boy," Emma's dad said, tugging gently on the leash. But Max wouldn't move. He planted his feet firmly and looked at Emma again. Then he looked at the window. Outside, the wind was picking up. Dark clouds were moving across the sky. "What's wrong, Max?" Emma's mom asked. Max whined again, louder this time. He pulled away from Emma's dad and went back to Emma's bed. He put his paw on the edge of the mattress and barked once. Emma's parents looked at each other in confusion. Then they remembered. This was how Max acted when he sensed Emma was going to have an asthma attack. "But she's fine right now," Emma's dad whispered to her mom. "And she's in the hospital with doctors and nurses everywhere." Emma's mom looked at Max's worried face, then at the storm brewing outside. A feeling of dread settled in her stomach. "I think we should let Max stay," she said. "Just for tonight." Little did they know that this decision would prove to be more important than they could possibly imagine. The storm grew stronger as night fell. Rain hit the hospital windows, making loud tapping sounds. Wind howled around the building. Lightning flashed, making bright light in Emma's room. Thunder boomed, shaking the walls. Emma's mom sat in a chair beside the bed. She read a magazine while Emma slept. Max lay on the floor next to Emma's bed. He didn't sleep. His eyes stayed open, watching Emma. Around midnight, the storm got very bad. The lights in the hospital flickered. Then they went out completely. The room was dark except for the glow of emergency lights in the hallway. "It's okay," Emma's mom said. Even though Emma was still asleep, the hospital has backup power. A few minutes later, the backup generators turned on. Some lights came back on, but not all of them. The important machines in Emma's room started working again, making their usual beeping sounds. A nurse came in to check on Emma. She shined a flashlight around the room. "Don't worry," she told Emma's mom. "The storm knocked out the power, but we have generators. The doctors are making sure all the patients are okay." Emma's mom nodded. She wasn't too worried. Emma was breathing well and sleeping peacefully. The nurse left to check on other patients. An hour later, something strange happened. The machines in Emma's room started to beep loudly. Emma's mom looked up from her magazine. The numbers on the machine were dropping. Emma's oxygen level was going down. Emma's mom jumped up and looked at her daughter. Emma was still asleep, but her breathing didn't sound right. It was making a whistling sound. Emma's mom pressed the call button for the nurse. Max was already on his feet. He nudged Emma's hand with his nose. When she didn't wake up, he barked loudly. Emma's eyes fluttered open. She looked confused. "Mom," she said in a weak voice. "I can't breathe very well." "Help is coming, sweetie," her mom said, trying to stay calm. She pressed the call button again. But no one came. The storm had caused problems all over the hospital. The nurses were very busy. Some of the call buttons weren't working right because of the power problems. Emma's breathing got worse. She sat up in bed, struggling to get air. Her mom looked for Emma's inhaler, but it was empty. The spare one in Max's collar pouch was empty too. They had used both inhalers earlier that day. "I'll go find a nurse," Emma's mom said. She didn't want to leave Emma, but she needed to get help. Just as she reached the door, there was a loud crash. A tree branch had broken off in the storm and hit the building. It fell across the hallway outside Emma's room, blocking the door. Emma's mom couldn't get out. "Help," she called, but her voice couldn't be heard over the storm. She tried to push the branch, but it was too heavy. Emma was getting worse. Her lips were turning blue. The machines beeped faster, warning that her oxygen was dangerously low. Max looked at Emma, then at the partly blocked door. He was smaller than Emma's mom. He could fit through the small space between the door and the tree branch. Max nudged Emma's mom's leg, then ran to the door. He barked and looked back at her. "You want to go get help?" she asked, understanding what he wanted to do. Max barked again. Emma's mom went to the door and opened it as wide as she could. The space was small, but Max squeezed through it. "Find a nurse, Max," she told him. "Go." Max ran down the dark hallway. Some emergency lights were on, but many areas were dim. The hospital was confusing, with many hallways and rooms. How would Max find help? But Max was smart. He used his nose. He sniffed the air, looking for the scent of the nurses who had been in Emma's room. He followed the strongest scent, running as fast as he could. The nurse's station was far from Emma's room. When Max got there, he saw several nurses helping other patients. They hadn't heard Emma's call button because of the storm and the power problems. Max barked loudly to get their attention. The nurses looked up, surprised to see a dog in the hospital during an emergency. "Isn't that the girl's dog from room 212? One nurse asked. Max barked again. He ran a few steps back toward Emma's room, then stopped and looked at the nurses. He barked again. "I think he wants us to follow him," another nurse said. She grabbed an emergency kit and followed Max. Max led the way, running ahead then coming back to make sure the nurse was following. The storm raged outside, but Max was focused on one thing only: saving Emma. What he did next would take his heroism to a new level. Max and the nurse hurried back toward Emma's room. When they reached the hallway, they saw the tree branch blocking the door. The nurse called for help on her radio. "We need assistance at room 212, she said. "Tree branch blocking the door and patient in respiratory distress." 2 hospital workers came running with tools. They began to cut away the tree branch. But it would take time. Emma needed help right now. The nurse looked at the small space under the branch. She was too big to fit through, but she had an idea. She opened her emergency kit and took out a small breathing mask attached to a portable oxygen tank. "We can pass this through to them," she said. Max watched her carefully. The nurse tried to push the oxygen equipment through the small space, but it got stuck. The tank was too big to fit. Max whined and pawed at the floor. He seemed upset and anxious. The nurse looked at him. "What is it, boy?" she asked. Max barked and ran down the hallway. The nurse wasn't sure what to do. Should she wait for the workers to clear the branch or follow the dog? She decided to follow Max. He led her to another room nearby. This room was empty because the patient had gone home earlier that day. On the wall was a breathing treatment machine, just like the one in Emma's room. Max barked at the machine. The nurse understood what he wanted. "Smart dog," she said. She unplugged the machine and grabbed it. It was much smaller than the oxygen tank. They hurried back to Emma's room. The hospital workers were still cutting the branch, but the nurse could now pass the breathing machine through the small space. "Emma's mom," she called. "Can you hear me?" "Yes," came the reply. "Please hurry. Emma can't breathe." "I'm passing a nebulizer through," the nurse said. "It has medicine that will help her breathe." The nurse pushed the machine through the small opening. Emma's mom grabbed it and quickly set it up. She put the mask over Emma's face and turned on the machine. It made a soft humming sound as it released medicine into the mask. Emma took deep breaths of the medicine. Slowly, her breathing improved. The blue color left her lips. The beeping of the monitors slowed down to normal. Meanwhile, the hospital workers finally cut through the tree branch. They moved it away from the door. The nurse rushed in to check on Emma. "Her oxygen levels are improving," she said, looking at the monitors. "The medicine is working." Emma's mom hugged the nurse. "Thank you," she said. "If you hadn't come when you did." "Don't thank me," the nurse said. "Thank your amazing dog. He brought me here, and he showed me where to find the nebulizer when our oxygen tank wouldn't fit through the door." They looked for Max, but he wasn't in the room. Where had he gone? Just then, they heard excited voices in the hallway. Emma's mom went to look. There was Max, leading Emma's dad through the dark hospital. Emma's dad had been sleeping in the waiting room when the storm hit. He woke up when the power went out but couldn't find his way to Emma's room in the darkness. Max had found him and led him back to Emma. Now the family was together again. "What happened?" Emma's dad asked, seeing all the people in Emma's room. Emma's mom told him everything. About the storm, the power outage, Emma's attack, the blocked door, and how Max had saved the day again. Emma's dad knelt down and hugged Max. "You are the most amazing dog in the world," he said, his voice thick with emotion. The news of Max's heroism spread quickly through the hospital. By morning, everyone was talking about the incredible dog who had saved his owner's life during the storm. A doctor came to check on Emma. She was doing much better. The storm had passed, and the hospital was getting back to normal. "You're very lucky to have such a special dog," the doctor told Emma. Emma smiled. She was tired but feeling better. "I know," she said, petting Max's head. "He's my hero." But even as Emma recovered, a new danger was approaching, one that would test Max's abilities like never before. The biggest challenge of all was just around the corner. 2 days after the storm, Emma was well enough to go home. The doctors gave her new medicine and a better inhaler. They told her parents to watch her carefully. "Emma's asthma is very serious," the doctor explained. "She needs to see a specialist." The closest asthma specialist was in a big city 2 hours away. Emma's parents made an appointment for the following week. At home, Emma rested. She didn't go to school. Max stayed by her side all the time. He seemed to know she was still not fully well. Emma's story spread around their small town. A reporter from a local newspaper came to interview the family. The reporter took pictures of Emma and Max. "Dog is AV's Gerald during hospital emergency," the headline read. People stopped Emma's parents in the grocery store to ask about Max. One person who read the story was Dr. Wilson, the asthma specialist Emma was going to see. When Emma and her parents arrived at his office, he was waiting for them. "I read about your amazing dog," Dr. Wilson said. "Is he with you?" Emma nodded. Max was sitting beside her in the waiting room. "Good," Dr. Wilson said. "I'd like to meet him." Dr. Wilson examined Emma carefully. He asked many questions about her asthma attacks and how Max seemed to know when they were coming. "There are chemicals in the breath that change before an asthma attack," he explained. "Some dogs can smell these changes." The doctor had an idea. He wanted to study Max's ability to detect asthma attacks. This could help other children with asthma. "Would you bring Max to our hospital next month?" he asked Emma's parents. "We have a special program for medical detection dogs." Emma's parents agreed. This could be a great opportunity. Max's special gift could help many people. The family drove home feeling hopeful. Emma was excited that Max might become an official medical dog. Max slept in the back seat, tired from the long day. It was dark when they reached the winding road that led to their town. Rain had started falling again, making the road slippery. Emma's dad drove slowly and carefully. As they came around a curve, their headlights showed a fallen tree across the road. Emma's dad hit the brakes. The car skidded on the wet road. He tried to steer away from the tree, but the car slid off the road. The car rolled down a small hill and landed on its side. The airbags went off with a loud bang. For a moment, everything was quiet except for the sound of rain. Emma's dad opened his eyes. He was sore, but not badly hurt. Emma's mom was next to him, bleeding from a cut on her head but awake. "Emma," her mom called out, turning to look in the back seat. Emma didn't answer. She was still strapped in her seatbelt, but wasn't moving. The crash had knocked her unconscious. Worse, her breathing was very labored. "She's having an attack," Emma's mom cried. The crash must have triggered it. Emma's dad tried his cell phone. No signal. They were in a rural area with poor coverage. He tried to open his door, but it was crushed against the ground. Emma's mom's door was against a tree. They were trapped, and Emma needed help fast. Max had been thrown from his seat but wasn't seriously hurt. He shook himself and looked around. He saw Emma and whined softly. He licked her face, but she didn't wake up. Emma's parents tried to reach into the back seat to help Emma, but they couldn't get to her inhaler. It had fallen somewhere in the crashed car. "We need help," Emma's dad said, his voice shaking with fear. Max looked at them, then at the broken car window. Without hesitation, he jumped through the opening. Rain soaked his fur as he stood on the hillside. "Max!" "No," Emma's mom called. "It's too dangerous out there." But Max knew what he had to do. He had to find help for Emma. He looked around, trying to figure out which way to go. The road was above them. That's where cars would be, where people would be. Max started climbing the slippery hill. His paws slid in the mud, but he kept going. When he reached the road, he looked both ways. No cars were coming. The fallen tree had blocked all traffic. Max made his decision. He would run to the nearest house or car. He would bring help back to Emma. It was dark and raining, and Max didn't know exactly where they were. But he had to try. With one last look at the crashed car below, Max began to run through the rain. Emma's life depended on him finding help in time. What happened next would make Max not just a family hero, but a legend in their entire town.